What's up, Jet fans? Last night I watched Jets Week 6, Bills at Jets, Monday Night Football, a second Monday Night Football game for the Jets. Um, Mark Sanchez is up there Week 6, but also they wore their throwback jerseys, very similar to what they used to wear a few years ago, but I'm pretty sure that jersey was actually a throwback to like the 80s. But still, cool to see that throwback jersey, I guess. Although I do like their current jerseys more. It's fun nostalgia. But yeah, just before that game, though, obviously the biggest story, and I did not get to cover yet, was Robert Saleh getting fired. Um, After the really bad London game, if you remember that, I made my London video before they fired him. Um, it just and so I'm gonna talk about like what happened, like my thoughts before the game. It makes no logical sense, I guess, and I want to caveat that with, well, these are human beings we're talking about, and some of them not really super normal human beings. um, so right, logic doesn't always work, but on paper, this firing didn't make too much logical sense to me. The defense was one of the best defenses in the league. On paper, the eyeball tests, like watching the games, they seem to give up a lot of clutch points. um, but just on paper, they're like the fourth best defense in terms of yardage, but they're on the field the longest. So like that kind, you can make an argument that they're the best defense. I don't know if I even agree with that, but they're definitely a good defense. I'll agree with that. Um, and so once again, Robert Sala is a defensive-minded head coach. It seems like the issue here is the offense. Zach Wilson, the issue was the offense, and now Aaron Rodgers, he's healthy, he's playing. The issue still seems to be the offense. They fired the head coach, and then brought in their defensive coordinator to be the interim head coach, and then kept the offensive side of the ball the same, except for the play calling duty. But I don't see why you had to fire Robert Sala to change the offensive play calling. That's just where it doesn't make too much logical sense. So this firing did not make logical sense. Um, but then again, they Aaron Rodgers had his worst game of his career before he got fired. And is that Robert Sala's responsibility? I don't think so, but there needs to be some sort of change. Um, I don't know if this is the change I would have made. And once again, I'm talking about this. These are my thoughts before the game, and once again, with the caveat I said is perhaps there's some internal stuff we don't know about. Where on paper he's doing a good job with the defense, it's the offense that's failing. Perhaps there's a personality issue or something. Maybe Aaron Rodgers doesn't like him. Maybe the players don't like him. I haven't heard any of that. Maybe he needed to not be liked by the players. Maybe he needed to be more strict. So logically, this makes no sense, but not all humans are rational beings, so perhaps an irrational move could help the team out. I guess, if that makes any sense. And once again, the game, now jumping into the game, uh, the final score 2023, a really close loss, a weird game, um, a good game from the offense, I would argue, especially from Aaron Rodgers, probably one of his better games as a New York Jet. Um, but a tough loss. A 3 point game is a really tough loss. The big stories going into the game. This game was for the lead of the AFC East. I know it's early in the season, but like that would be really big because it doesn't feel like the Jets should even be anywhere close to being ahead of the AFC East. Before this game, they had a shot to take the lead of the AFC East, and that's also what makes the firing a little weird, where they were in striking distance to to be leading the AFC East, but then they fired the head coach. Obviously, this is the interim head coach's first time being a head coach. He was a candidate to be head coach last season because once again their defense was really good. It's been really good for a while. He stayed with the Jets, and now he's getting his shot. Going down the rundown as well. They lost the game though, so he's 0-1 as a head coach. Their record is 2-4 now. My predicted record at this time was 4-2, and yes, I predicted the Jets to win this game. I had them splitting the Bills games, but winning the home game. Um, So my prediction was also incorrect. And just looking at the stats, especially like the first quarter, the first half kind of, um, the offenses were clicking. Both teams' offenses were clicking. Aaron Rodgers had almost 300 yards, two touchdowns, and that final interception really was not his fault. This was a get right game for Brees Hall, his best game of the season, I would argue. Um, Over 100 yards, and then obviously the receivers were clicking with two receivers getting over 100 yards. One of them obviously came from a last second Hail Mary, but still a big game for Garrett Wilson, a get right game for him as well, and then as well with Alan Lazard. I'm already talking about the offense, so let's jump into the offense. Like I said, big game for Aaron Rodgers, uh, and a big game for the struggling youngsters of Brees Hall and Garrett Wilson, who we hope are Jet legends by the time it's all said and done, and it's looked to be on that trajectory. But then this season happened, and there were some issues. But now this game, perhaps this will be a message for what's to come. So hopefully that's what happens. Um, and also, like, and so that's what I was saying with the firing. The game ended up being 2023. Um, but it seemed like lots of the movement happened in like the first quarter, first half, right? Because they were energized. They just lost their head coach. That motivates a team. We see that happen all the time. The issue is, can that be consistently follow? Like, is that just a one moment everyone is pissed off or everyone is happy, depending on the firing, and that motivates them to do better? You need that to happen for the rest of the season. And in this game, it kind of shows, well, no, that's some short term stuff. They did really good in the first quarter, in the first half, and then they kind of stalled out in the second half. And that's not sustainable. That's not what you want to do. Um, as well, the reason I have Aaron Rodgers up there with him, the play calling duties were switched. It's no longer the offensive coordinator calling the plays, which is bizarre. I feel like that's the definition of an offensive coordinator. Um, but obviously there's some locker room issues there, so the play calling duties have shifted, and that's kind of, I feel like that should have happened before they fired Robert Sala to see if that changed anything. But they did both, I guess, which is a little bizarre. And then also I have Greg Zerline up there because he missed two field goals. If you remember the score was 23-20. He hits both of those field goals. Obviously, the Bills don't play the game the way they played it because they would be chasing. But on paper, the Jets win this game, and I think that he needs to be mentioned. I know he's a special teamer, not an offensive player, but that is an issue. Going with the defense, the Bills are a good team. Their offense is kind of struggling, especially their passing offense, which we're used to it being really good. The Jets didn't get any interceptions or anything like that. Josh Allen still has no interceptions in the entire season, and backup running backs, Ray Davis, I believe his name is, the Buffalo Bills starting running back is injured, just like Christian McCaffrey being injured in Week 1, and then backup running backs destroying the Jets on Monday Night Football is a theme, I guess, of this season, which is an issue because why is that happening? I guess, and they were kind of running all over the Jets. The Jets were running all over the Bills too, but obviously the Bills won, so that's an issue. And then Josh Allen also got some tush push in to get a touchdown. Just a weird game. And then lots of penalties as well. And lots of penalties I don't really agree with. And poor DJ Reed was getting a lot of big penalties for pass interference. And uh, I mean, I don't know if this is going to be controversial to say to Jet fans. I feel like he plays the same exact way Sauce Gardner plays. Just Sauce Gardner is a big name, so he doesn't get called as much. And that's how all team works. It's not just the Jets are getting special treatment. Big names don't get penalties, or if they're on offense, they make the defensive players get penalties. We saw that happen with Justin Jefferson in the Vikings game, and not so big names like DJ Reed, who should be a big name. He's getting a lot of penalties, and it kind of right because like that's an issue. You're giving up double-digit yardage on penalties. Um, and there were lots of penalties all around, but just something I noticed was DJ Reed was getting a lot of penalties that I don't think were very fair. Um, but yeah, so Bills offense, their backup running backs ran all over the Jets, and they had a solid passing game. As the commentators were saying, the Bills passing game is kind of done by committee. They don't have wide receiver one right now, and Josh Allen is not. Um, losing games, I guess, because of that. Or he didn't lose this game, anyways. So yes, in conclusion, they lost the game. I predicted they'd win this game. They play the Steelers next. I predict they lose that game as well, and then they play the Patriots, so that should be a win. But I want to talk about Greg Zerline again. There are now two games. The Broncos game, just 100%, if he hit that last second field goal, they would have won that game. And then this game, if he hit the two field goals he missed, they would have won that game. The Jets are 4-2 if that happens. Um, and that's tough, right? Because it's not all on him. I don't want to blame him, but if you don't think a kicker's whole entire thing is his mentality, if you don't think that's on his mind, I disagree. I think that's on his mind. He knows that if he was perfect, which it's a lot to ask for a kicker to be perfect, but if he was perfect, the Jets would be 4-2, and I don't want to say a playoff lock at that point, but a lot better position than they are now, where they're 2-4. And I think that's an issue. I don't know what they need to do, if they need to like talk to him, bring in another kicker to motivate him, or bring in another kicker to replace him. But I feel like his mentality is gone, because physically he's a great kicker. He's super powerful leg, and historically he's been a good kicker. But something with this season, I don't know if it's that Broncos game where he missed that field goal, which just messed up his mind or something. But something is going on. Um, and if he was perfect, the Jets would be 4-2 in the lead of the AFC East and in a much, much better position. But he's not perfect. And it's not all on him, right? If Aaron Rodgers didn't throw 3 interceptions in the London game, that game would have been different. If Mike Williams didn't mess up the pass and caused Aaron Rodgers to throw a last second interception, perhaps the Jets could have gone down the field and scored. And yeah, so I don't know. Mike Williams, he's been a issue. Perhaps the Jets need to go out and get another receiver. Wait, who's that in the bottom left of my screen? Devante Adams. That's right. Breaking news: as a few hours before I started recording, the Jets have traded for Devante Adams after this game. Um, Sorry for that little skit there, but yes, the heavily rumored trade has happened. The Jets have sent over a third, maybe second round pick if he plays well, for Devante Adams. Aaron Rodgers and Devante Adams reunite, and the highly speculated trade for years now, this has been speculated, has happened. And I want to say, hopefully this helps the team. Mike Williams did kind of cost the Jets the game, or cost the Jets a chance to win the game by messing up. So obviously, I think we'll see a lot less of him and a lot more Devante Adams. Um, and so hopefully this reuniting with Aaron Rodgers can motivate Aaron Rodgers to continue to have good games. And I think if the Jets completely failed in this game, if they had another London game, I don't think this trade would have happened. But they were competitive in this game. Aaron Rodgers had one of his best games as a Jet, but hopefully there will be much, much better games to come, because he now has his favorite weapon. Garrett Wilson had a really good game. Allen Lazard had a good game because of the Hail Mary yardage, but also just a good game. So hopefully now Garrett Wilson's going to get the number 2 cornerback, and Allen Lazard's going to get the number 3 cornerback. So that should make them be better. And then also you have Devante Adams, who's clearly, I feel like, going to be the wide receiver 1 in this situation, at least once he learns the playbook. But he probably already knows the playbook because he's played with Aaron Rodgers for years. But this is breaking news. On paper, I like it. I don't know if this solves all their issues, but offense is an issue, and he should help improve the offense if the Jets' defense can stay consistent from what they've done and maybe be a little bit more clutch. I think this is a playoff caliber team, and they got another big name. If for only a third round pick, maybe a second round pick, I'm not going to complain too much, because what are the chances a third round pick player becomes Devante Adams? Very little, very little. So we'll see what happens. But that was breaking news. Right before I started recording the video. Let me know your thoughts on the trade. Let me know your thoughts on what's going to happen, right? Because the Devante Adams trade probably changes some of my predictions. We'll have to see how he performs, though, when he's a Jet. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Goodbye.